joined by Baylor assistant head basketball coach Jerome Tang, coming off the win in Austin, the win Saturday at home against Kansas, Iowa State Saturday, and still a chance to have a piece of that Big 12 regular season title. Jerome, thanks for your time. You and Coach Jacobs together today. How impressed, how many times have you all as a staff, you yourself, whoever, just said, man, damn, these kids we have are tough?
No, you know what, we say it a lot, and they just impress us with their resilience. And you know, as coaches, we always see like what they could do better, and John is really good at reminding us, let's talk about what our guys can do and not what they don't do or can't do. And you know, it's been fun, and just watching these guys grow up and grow together. And I'll tell you one of the most impressive things, we used to pick up cell phones at meals so that they would talk to each other, and we haven't done that this year. And yesterday at our pregame meal after chapel, I could hear them talking, and I looked over and no one had their phone.
That's awesome.
You know, they were just talking and laughing and having a good time together. And you know, that's the kind of stuff that really like hits you in the heart as a coach, to see your guys grow together and be a family.
I went on a road trip with you guys several years ago. You went to Ames, Hilton Coliseum was rocking, and you were in that midst where you guys were, you know, having a good run, but obviously the last 2 or 3 years has been even more special. But I do remember that. You would collect like a box or whatever it was right there on this little like chair or whatever on the way into that room, and I was very impressed with that. What you have had, and Coach Jacobs mentioned this, what you can do or what they are doing, but Flo Thamba is now an offensive threat. Matthew Meyer grabbing a dozen rebounds. What Jeremy Sohan has brought to the table is a mismatch. You've reinvented yourself. You had the Tristan Clark, reinvented yourself. You kind of had to go through it a little bit this year, reinvented yourself. Is it now better because you've played together in this type of game, or because you've had a couple of practices to tweak it?
A combination of both. That we've had a couple practices to be able to, and days to talk about what we think can be effective. We've had a chance to watch it. And, you know, what's effective against one team is not necessarily what will be effective against another team. So it's about going from game to game to figure out what your mismatch is, so that you can then figure out what you're going to run. And, you know, for the Kansas game, it was different than the Texas game. And to see the guys be able to adapt to that and to set their own ego aside because they want to win, I mean, that's the thing that's so impressive.
Yeah, they've accepted those roles. Was there any pushback at all?
Well, you know, I mean, the reason why each one of these guys are at Baylor is because they have egos, right? Like, the ego is the thing that tells them, I'm better than the guy in front of me. And so you expect a little pushback. You expect at times for a player not to do everything you want him to do. That's what makes him really good. You just don't want the one that doesn't do anything you want him to do. You know, so that's just all the give and take of this thing.
Did you ever think that Flo Thamba could be a double-digit scorer night in and night out?
You know, I think the way we feel as a staff is that any guy given the opportunity can be productive. And how productive that is, you know, Flo was very productive in the minutes that he played. We just didn't have a need for him to play that many minutes because of John and, you know, what John brought to the table. It wasn't that Flo didn't have the ability to, but now the opportunity has presented itself, and Flo has prepared himself to have this kind of opportunity. He didn't wait till this opportunity presented itself to try and get himself ready. And so that's what really the thing. Like, you talk about working in the dark so you can shine in the light. He's always worked in the dark, and And so now his opportunity is here, and he's ready for it.
You won a game, and Matthew Meyer scored 2 points, but he had 7 rebounds. He kind of created some havoc. I know that he'd like to obviously be better, more productive on offense, but he's, for a guy that everyone probably thought initially was just a gunner, a guy that there was never a shot he didn't like, and that's still the case, but how much has he sacrificed, Coach, in becoming the player you need him to be right now?
I'll back up a game, and you see the Kansas game. He was 3 for 5 from the field. He didn't take any tough shots and got 12 rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the game, he was getting grown man rebounds when nobody else could get it. And it was, OER-wise, it was one of his most productive and efficient games. And so going into this game, obviously being back home, you knew he wanted to, try and contribute more. But when he saw early on, hey, man, my shot's not falling, he didn't force anything after that. And that's maturity, and so I just so proud of his maturity and him really wanting to win. You saw a kid, making hustle plays and, trying, sprinting the floor and running until somebody else gets open. Just all the little things that he's doing that contribute to winning that don't show up in the stat sheets. So that's, I don't see it as him sacrificing as much as him just maturing and growing into what a real basketball player looks like.
Jeremy Sohan, obviously Saturday was just brilliant and kind of a coming out party. Not that he wasn't already someone people knew. But I thought last night when you guys made that 9-0 run, there were 2 or 3 plays, and it might have been almost in back-to-back or back-to-back-to-back possessions on the defensive end where he got a strip, he got a block, where all of a sudden he made plays that no one really might see in the box score. Do you remember those moments and kind of how he came in?
Yeah, most definitely. Well, the Timmy Allens, number 0 for Texas, really, that was what they felt was their advantage offensively. And when we were able to play Flo at the 5 and Jeremy at the 4 and put Jeremy on him, in that stretch, Jeremy guarded him, got a couple deflections, a block shot, challenged another shot, got a rebound. That was his versatility on the defensive end showed up last night when it was most crucial.
When you say culture of joy, you hear that all the time now. And obviously national championship, where you are now, where you've been. Can that win games?
Well, it wins the game of life. And that's the most important thing. If we win a bunch of basketball games and we have bad citizens and bad guys go forward and don't lead productive lives and aren't great husbands and great fathers and don't impact their community and don't build the kingdom of Jesus Christ, then we've lost. We've really lost. It's not matter about the rings and the championship. So the culture of joy is about winning the game of life. And, basketball reflects life a little bit. And, we feel like if guys have that kind of mindset in how they live their life and they bring it to the court and their team and the family environment that we have, then, the rest of it takes care of itself.
What are those meetings like with you and John and Alvin and others? Obviously, Coach Peterson, Scott, all of them. I'm not trying to, Jared, when you guys start kind of brainstorming and you knew when Jonathan went out, or what are some of those meetings? Is it just everyone says what they need to say, everyone's listening, and all of a sudden there's like this moment when, damn, excuse my language, let's try that. What are those like?
Well, the wonderful thing about working with Scott and living life with him is that he values everyone's opinion. So there's never a time where there's a question that's asked where only 1 or 2 people get input. Everyone in that circle gets to speak their mind and give their thoughts. And, we don't always agree or we don't always see it from the same lens, which is wonderful, the beautiful thing about our staff, because if everybody is thinking the same thing, that nobody's thinking. And so we want the different views and ideas. Then we try to figure out how we can take the best of every idea Coach does and put it together, collaborate to help our team move forward and give our team the best chance to win a basketball game. And not just the next one, but the last one. And so it's a lot of fun. I happen to work with some of the live life with, some of the most brilliant people in the world, both on and off the court. It's just an honor to be in there, listen to some of the ideas that they have and how they present it, and how clear and what type of conviction they have about what they believe. But everything that's brought to the table is always with the guy's best interest in mind and how we can help Coach accomplish what he wants to accomplish.
How often when you say something or someone says something and you guys already know what you're about to say?
Well, I think we understand each other's personality, so we understand which ones of us want to drop the hammer and which one will extend grace first, but it's fun to hear everything and then come to the best. What's best for the guys? What's best for the team? What's best for Coach?
We've discussed the reinvention. Jerome Tang, Baylor assistant head coach with us, Sic'Em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. What the players have sacrificed, what they've done. Do you feel like maybe the players Saturday against Kansas won a game for the coaching staff?
Hey, the other day I'll tell you the story. The other day we were in the gym, and Chris, one of our GAs, Chris Nottingham, does an unbelievable job. He was rebounding for James. And he told James something, and James said, "Oh, you have to say that. You're on their side." I said, "What do you mean their side?" He said, "Oh, well, he's with the coaches." I said, "No, we're all on the same team. We are all on the same team. We all win. We all lose. We all move. This is one family. This is not players against coaches. And you can see James, it took him a second, like he's absorbing this, what we're about, because he's been at other places. And, I feel like we all wanted to win that game for each other. Like, as a staff, we knew that our guys were not themselves when we played those guys the first time. That's not who Baylor basketball was. That's not who they are. And we wanted to give them the best opportunity to be successful. And they wanted to, give the best opportunity to show what we are all about. So it wasn't the team trying to win it for the coaches or the coaches. It was all of us together trying to do something for Baylor. And that's what was really special about it.
One more thing about the team. Last year, it wasn't like everything was easy, but you guys just blitzkrieged everybody. You had the COVID pause and that post-COVID, and there were some dicey moments, no question. But it was a great basketball team, great staff, everything across the board. Maybe one of the best teams we've seen in a long, long time. But you guys are still really good, and everyone, my God, you lost this, and we know Tech's good, and Kansas is good, and there was the loss to Oklahoma State and Alabama, but you still had this amazing run. Did you need, not just because it's a win in the win column, but did you guys need that win against Kansas and follow it up with that kind of gritty win against Texas, kind of a surging towards postseason?
Man, when is there a game that we don't need to win?
Mm-hmm.
Like every game in the Big 12 is a grinder, and every game is important. And we're trying to get a 1 seed to give us the best chance, to make our way through the tournament. And so, I don't know. When we needed the win against Kansas, and then we needed the win against Texas as much.
Like you said, in the Big 12, it's so competitive. My God, we saw TCU beat Tech. We've seen Oklahoma State beat you. I just thought that those games, the timing of it, especially with all the things you've been through, were just pushed you to a level that was just phenomenal. And on this roll, again, you're as good as your next play, next game, next opponent, next result. But it just seemed like those things were sharp, edgy. You needed that type of game.
I understand where you're at, and that's a great question, and I see where you're coming from, and I wouldn't. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that the Kansas game was important to us. Okay, but it was more important because of how we performed there, rather than their jersey. You know, we had to show that wasn't us.
Right.
And obviously, anytime you take the floor against the University of Texas, there's a little something extra to it. Okay, and so. And the fact that it was the last game in that stadium, you know, I mean, every time they introduced anything or made any kind of comment, they mentioned that night that it was the last game. You know, so we knew how important it was to them, and we knew that this thing was going to, like, be a history thing forever. Hey, what was the last game played in a drum? That score is going to be remembered. You know, not the second to last game or not even the third last, not the first conference game. It was the first game in the drum, the last game, and it's going to be always remembered.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we wanted to be on the right side of history on that one.
Last thing, Nikki Collin, women's basketball. You know the story. The culture of joy is no longer just men's basketball. It's throughout that athletic department. And what she has brought, what she had to deal with, the standard that was set, the expectations, 0-2, COVID, you know, kind of a grind. And, man, with a game left, they clinched a piece of their 12th consecutive Big 12 championship, regular season championship. Can you try to explain how happy you are for what they've done this year?
Man, joy is definitely the word. I'm overjoyed for her. She has handled this whole thing with grace and class and a smile on her face. And, I mean, I am so ecstatic for her and that staff and those young ladies, and they're just, you know, I mean, Smoke, I ain't gonna lie, it's so much more pleasant around the office, right? Like, we can go in their gym, they can come in ours, we can be in the weight room when they're in there, you know, they're in there working out in the morning when they do staff workouts together, when we're in there lifting in the morning together. You know, there's a peace that exists. And you know, there was never a doubt that she could coach basketball. There's never, you know, I mean, there's never a doubt that she's gonna win. You know, her thing is that she had to win over the fans. You know, and she won us over right away. I'll give you this story. There's, you know, the parking spots by the Farrell Center, right? It used to have the names on there, right? For this coach and that coach, their names on there. Well, as soon as, you know, we made the coaching change, Coach Drew just had to take the names off and put head coaches, okay? So there's 2 spots for the 2 head coaches. No name on either spot. It doesn't matter. You can park in either spot. I show up one morning, and she's there before us. And she doesn't park in the first spot. She parks in the second spot, right? And I took a picture of it and sent it to Scott. I said, she's one of us. Because that's what Coach would do. Coach Drew would show up and leave the first spot open for the other person. And, I mean, that just kind of exemplifies, you know, her servant attitude, you know, the grace with which she lives her life and extends to others. But there's just this fiery competitor inside of her. And man, I'm just so thankful that God brought her to Baylor.
Well, I have to bring this up. In fact, I know I've taken way more time than you had for me, but the first time that you, Scott, and some of the other guys walked into the women's practice gym, I was told that the floor started rumbling a little bit.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Hey man, enjoy. I know you're on the road. You and Coach Jacobs and everybody else. Congratulations on the run. I know there's much more that you guys want and need to accomplish. Thanks for your time. See you Saturday against Iowa State.
Thank you, buddy. Have a great one.
Jerome Tang, Baylor men's basketball. Sic'Em 365 Radio, 365 Sports.